Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Top 10 edition of Magic Mike's, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day. And check out our co-sponsor, Mana Traders, the best tool to enhance your Magic Online experience. Use the code MAGICMIKES for 12% off your next subscription with Mana Traders, and that has definitely been happening, and we do appreciate y'all supporting the show by doing that with our co-sponsors. My name is Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, MTG Nerd Girl.
Hey guys, welcome back.
Ruben Bressler.
What's going on? It's been a while since we've done a top 10, and we're glad to have you back at home for some amount of time, Nerd Girl.
Yeah, I'm not leaving again for 7 weeks.
Okay.
Oh boy.
That's ominous, but also good. Good that you can have not rest, but maybe not motion sickness.
Still a good thing. I mean,
not bad.
It's been a whole set release since we've done anything.
That's true.
And it's funny, when you go back and you look at our top 10 cards, and Nerd Girls was the Eternal Wanderer, which has done things, made splashes. Your number one was Tyvar, Jubilant Brawler, which did make a few cool, interesting decks, particularly in Explorer and Pioneer. My number one was Phyrexian Vindicator, which has done absolutely nothing but poop the bed and look sad.
That's fine. Listen. Our
Top 10 is not about being good. It's about being interesting, and you liked it.
I liked that card a lot. It was fun. All right, let's go here. So, moving on.
We're not prognosticators. We're fans.
Right. Well, we begin with a choice over the top comment from the last top 10 in a segment we call Honorable Mention, where Ruben will tell us who was the most eloquent, letting us know what card we did not choose as one of our top 10 limited all will be one cards. Ruben?
Well, I chose this one for a couple of reasons. One of which is it gives me a chance to stretch my Greek pronunciation, because this week's winner is Yanni Constantinides. As a half Greek person myself, I want to be able to shout out the fellow.
Very nice.
The Macedonian and the Greek out in there. Anyway, Yanni writes to us and says, as I was thinking about what I would have added to the top 10, it was easy to drift towards all-stars in the oil deck. From the onset, it's easy to early pick cards like the Manadork Skooz Armored Scrap Gorger, Kuldotha Cackler as a finisher, and even, what is in my opinion, a hidden gem in Furnace Skullbomb. However, I ultimately think that underrated and often passed over Testament Bearer deserves a spot on the list. For 4 mana, you get a 4/1 creature, which is a hefty attacker when possible, or a pretty effective blocker when needed, and trades favorably with most things. Additionally, it replaces itself when it trades, and also fills your graveyard. Chaining these together will often clear a path to victory by clearing a board of blockers.
Nice. Yeah, that card always surprises me.
Yeah, it's a card that got better, I think, over time. And I also think that the Furnace Skullbomb was another card that I saw kind of get better over time, that people recognized that, things improved, as it were. The full card itself is a black and 3 generic mana for a 4/1 common Phyrexian Warrior. And when it dies, you look at the top 3 cards of your library, you put one of them in your hand and the rest into your graveyard. 4 power, and honestly 4 power for a couple sets now has been very, very important. Like, that's a magical number. We've got 4 toughness, that's super important. We've got 4 power, that's super important. And it's often where the formats feel me like they teeter and totter on, is those magical power and toughness points.
And mites can't block.
Right.
And mites can't block.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
being a 4/1 for 4 doesn't look great on the surface, but you get a dark bargaining on the back end, which is way better than just drawing a card. Filling your graveyard super relevant in certain decks in the format. Mm-hmm. Again, 4 power is just plenty to start doing work. Not to mention 2 relevant creature types, maybe not for the limited environment per se, but yeah, very surprising card. I love it when random cards that just have very standard abilities, very standard, there's nothing groundbreaking happening on this card, but the numbers are just perfect for it to be a great role player.
There you go. So congratulations to Yanni. Please contact us on social media for your prize, ideally on Twitter at MagicMikesCastDM. So run to Twitter. I know it's on fire right now. It's okay. For now, we still use the DMs there.
If you want to, you can email.
You could.
You could email, theoretically, but
I'd rather
Twitter
you just use the Twitter DMs,
just
please.
Twitter DM.
It's cool. I'll be hated too. It's fine. Well, congratulations to Yanni. Please contact us on social media. Twitter at our DMs at Magic Mike's Cast is the preferred method. Thanks again to CoolStuffInc.com for sponsoring this giveaway. And stay tuned for our top 10 list this week. And maybe you can win next week's free gift certificate because we're doing the limited cards next week. So we're going to be back here after we get some more limited on our belt because, my God, I'm going to need it. It's been some rough seas so far. It's almost say. We're going to move on here to our top 10 list of this set so far. Ruin, what's your number 10?
Well, my number 10 is a card that I unabashedly love. And every time I brought up that I unabashedly loved it, Evan was like, that card's not good. And I was like, just let me... Listen, I'm going to be the Evan in this case. I'm going to unabashedly love my Elder Giant Dog. All right?
Nice.
It's Kroxa and Kunaros. Once again, with the Greek pronunciation, I'm excited. Kroxa and Kunaros is the team up we didn't know that we wanted, but we definitely deserved. 3 generic red, white, black gets you a legendary creature, Elder Giant Dog. That's a 6/6 for 6 mana with Vigilance, Menace, and Lifelink. When Kroxa and Kunaros enters the battlefield or attacks, you may exile 5 cards from your graveyard. When you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it takes a minute to get going, but if you start stocking up your graveyard, turn 6, you're immediately getting stuff back. Goes great with our honorable mention this week. And is just an Elder Giant Dog. How can you not like it? And also, the flavor of one of the giants of the underworld teaming up with Kunaros, protector of the underworld, is really great flavor, which the flavor text on the regular version says, when the invasion tree reached the underworld, it only found teeth and fury, which is just lovely flavor.
I love the team up cards. They are super cool because they all are kind of like these 2 that you wouldn't expect to team up, like you said, doing some sweet epic battles. And I really like how they incorporated the original designs of each of those cards into one new design that does some really cool stuff and allows us to get to reimagine our favorite characters, oftentimes working with their enemies, which is sweet.
Yeah, it was one of those things that when I saw it, I was like, oh, they've never done this before. I'm like, oh, well, of course they've done like 2 different characters on a card or whatever, but they've never necessarily sort of paired up awesome characters that we've known and loved throughout the years who are now together, and Wolverine is now working with the Hulk and whatever. And you're like, oh my God, these are 2 from the story. I know how they fit in the story and they're together, not supposed to be, but they are. And that's super cool. And that was a whole like aspect of the set that I absolutely adored. And so, yeah, I think this card's fantastic. It's fun. Nerd Girl, what's number 10?
My number 10 is the first of 2 hires.
We all have 2 hires.
Yeah.
Perfectly balanced. All right. Well, my number 10
should be.
That's right. My number 10 here is a really cool card. Is a card that I don't believe they even previewed it early. It might not have been previewed at all, but it has since become like one of the mythic uncommons of the set. I know the casual crew and the commander peeps are super excited about this card. It does a lot, and yeah, I did whip me in limited because I'm just getting whipped in limited right now. I think it's my only uncommon in my list, and this is Kami of Whispered Hopes. Kami of Whispered Hopes is a green and 2 generic mana for a 1/1 uncommon creature spirit. If 1 or more +1/+1 counters will be put on a permanent you control, that many +1/+1 counters are put on that permanent instead. So you already have your hardened scales. But it also taps to add X mana of any one color, where X is its power. So they played that card that put like 3 +1/+1 counters on each creature or whatever, and then it made 4 mana, and like it was just ridiculous. And this card is insane, and there's tons of cool commander decks that use +1/+1 counters, which it slides right into, while also being an incredible mana engine, while also just providing value. It's a great card.
Yeah, there's been a lot more +1/+1 synergy going around. I mean, with the exception of the oil counter set, right? But like in general, we're getting like Defiler of Vigor and a bunch of other really cool things for people to use, like in their sweet Vorinclex decks. So yeah, I'm excited to see this card. It is nice for the cheap mana cost. It seems awesome.
It's sweet.
Yeah. This card's insane. Very good. It's got that Marwyn the Nurturer scaling of its tap ability. So it's very easy to get out of hand very quickly. And there's a common 4 mana ramp card. I think it's Fertilid's Favor that puts 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature you control. So you can play this guy on turn 3 and then on turn 4 Fertilid's Favor and still have 4 mana.
God, this card's so sick.
Yeah, it's very good.
It's so good. So yeah, card's great. I love it. Let's move on here to number 9. Nerd Girl, what's your number 9?
My number 9 is a pretty sweet spell that I'm excited to see how it works. Um, these kinds of things are always really interesting in limited when you can pull them off, but I'm really interested to see what this will do in constructed. Maybe not necessarily in competitive, but in fun decks. So we're going to talk about C Double. For 2 colorless blue, you have an instant. It cannot be copied itself. And then you can choose one. If an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, you may choose both. You can copy target spell and choose new targets, or you may choose new targets, or you can create a token that's a copy of target creature you control. So where I like this card is in my casual mill decks, because I want to be copying those mill spells, which you can activate very easily when you've already done this with cards like Glimpse the Unspeakable. And then I want to get a copy of my crab and just like run people over. And a lot of these mill spells are really cheap, but for small increments of mill, and then you just can double them up and do some really cool things.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's excellent value on this card. Any come into play ability, anything, any sort of status effect that can double up on itself, like the Kami we just talked about. In addition to, copying 1 mana, 2 mana value spells to make them go crazy. I love this card. It's really spectacular.
I mean, it's always interesting how, like clones cost 4 mana. That's just what a clone costs, and they gave you a clone cost. Sometimes it's a little bit cheaper, and they'll push that every once in a while. They are dying to give you forks. They have done nothing but try to give us the best forks ever for like 2 years now. It's just like everything has a fork and somewhere in the set, and they're all sweet and interesting, but they're never too much because you need so much, I guess, sort of momentum. You need so much mana in order to really kind of go nuts with some sort of copying spell. And so why not just get both of them? And I'm guessing at some point in development, they're like, we can't let you copy this. This gets stupid.
Right. Well, with Dualcaster Mage, you just go infinite with this card.
Yep. True.
It would be very easy to go infinite with this card if it didn't have that can't be copied rider.
Well, it just goes infinite anyway, right? Like,
does it?
If it could copy it, it is. If they have 8 cards in their library and you can copy itself with itself, you just make infinite creatures.
But you can't, because the spell can't be copied, right? So,
but right,
that's what we're talking about. If it didn't have that clause, you guys were saying it needs something else to go infinite, but it doesn't.
It doesn't need anything.
Yeah, without that clause, if they have 8 cards in their graveyard, you just make infinite of whatever creature you want, basically just retargeting itself every time.
Wow, talking about a Splinter Twin situation. All right, cool. Ruben, what's number 9?
My number 9 is a card that as soon as it was previewed, people were like, amazing, spectacular. But also, personally, I have a big soft spot for 5-color commanders that make you build your commander deck in a way that normally you wouldn't. A lot of 5-color commanders, you just sort of end up with this mishmash of good cards. Gets a little bit boring, in my opinion. Cards that are 5-color commanders that push you in a certain direction, like Tom Bombadil, that'll come out this summer, I'm sure will be on my list as well. They make me happy because they're tough to design to get you to build a deck in a way that isn't just the best cards that have ever been printed. And Omnath, Locus of All, does that while also finishing off a super cycle of Omnaths. We've now had 5 Omnaths, or maybe even 6. I think we had 5.
We had 5.
Starting with the mono green, then green red, then green red blue white, and now 5-color.
Yes. Well, yeah, the one that was shown twice was when they modified Omnath Locus of Creation for Arena.
Yes.
And they nerfed it. So yes.
Right, they nerfed it, made it more expensive. But now we have Omnath Locus of All, which technically has all 5 mana symbols in it. We've got white, blue, Phyrexian black, red, green, for a legendary creature, Phyrexian Elemental, still a 4/4. If you would lose unspent mana, that mana becomes black instead. What a fun line of text.
It's cool.
Harkens back to the original mono green Omnath. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, look at the top card of your library. You may reveal that card if it has 3 or more colored mana symbols in its mana cost. If you do, add 3 mana in any combination of colors and put it into your hand. If you don't, reveal it and put it into your hand. So the way that that's phrased means that you can put cards that are 3 different colors, such as Villainous Wealth or Void Rend or Thalia and the Gitrog monster.
A charm.
Right? You
like
can
whatever.
do stuff like that. But it also allows you to put Nyxborn Ancient into your hand because it has 3 green mana symbols in it, or Chord of Calling, or Seismic Assault. I'm trying to think of examples of what this would go for. So it's a really interesting phraseology, and then it lets you pay for them itself. So really fun commander. I think that this would be wonderful to just be show a Maelstrom Wanderer off the top with all of my unspent black mana. Just a really fun and interesting design. Plus, it only really costs 4 because you're usually paying the 2 life. But in any case,
it sounds like a lot, and I'm hesitant to like anything that has the word Omnath on it, just because they tend to not be all that fun, and they tend to be kind of gross.
Yeah.
Well,
At least recently.
They made one broken one and constructed that one time. Omnath has generally been bad and constructed and just a commander, kind of thing. And then they said, what if we just pushed him a little bit? And they pushed him too far and we got the Locus of Creation.
Yeah.
So
Locus of Mana, the mono green one, was a popular commander forever.
Right.
Locus of Rage was the red green one, which was not particularly good. Locus of the Royal, I know, was in that 3-color Elementals deck.
Yep.
But also not particularly good.
Right.
It's pretty much the 4-color one that's the bad offender.
Yeah. It's either busted or no good.
Sure.
So
yeah, that's fair.
Which I honestly don't like so much when it comes to that, you know what I mean? Because again, you only have 2 modes, right? It's either it's the best thing or it's not even worth looking at. So meh. Either way, my number 9 here is a fun kind of callback to a previous card, while also being a powerful card in its own right. And my God, we got a Phyrexian Shark, y'all, with Chrome Host Seed Shark, calling back to Shark Typhoon and the Sharknado and the number 9 for Nurgle. Let's go.
Number 10.
Number 10, rather. Let's go. Right there next to each other, because the card is cool. The card is sweet. It's noteworthy. It's worth talking about. I think it's lovely. It's a blue and 2 generic mana for a 2/4 rare Phyrexian Shark with flying. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you incubate X, where X is that spell's mana value. And so you make an incubator token with X +1/+1 counters on it and 2 generic mana : transform this artifact into a 0/0 Phyrexian artifact creature. So you can cast a Wrath of God type of effect, wrath everything, and still have that 4 mana, 4 counter incubation token hanging out because it's not a creature. It's just an artifact with tokens on it. And that's amazing. I mean, let alone all the other cool things this stuff does.
Yeah. 2/4 flyer for 3 mana is already just good enough.
It's a good rate.
That's a great stat line.
Great rate.
The wrath interaction you just pointed out is insane. The fact that you can maintain a board presence in your blue-white control deck after, destroying your own creature that didn't have a come into play effect is great. I really I don't know why this is what sharks do in Magic, but since Shark Typhoon came out, this is what sharks do in Magic. It's just a very good card.
Yeah, you can see the little shark eggs underneath the shark in the art. So I guess the idea is you cast the spell and it's dropping little shark eggs, little, like an airplane dropping some bombs as it goes by, which is interesting. It's a great value no matter what you look at, even if you don't have a ton of non-creature spells. But certainly in Constructed, you're going to have all that you want. In Limited, I mean, this will do everything. Your mana rocks, your even your aura removal. Everything counts here. We're no longer talking about instants and sorceries. We're just talking about non-creature spells, which makes these cards much better than they have been in Limited in the past.
It's true. And so, yeah, little globules that drop off. Not great. Not great for me. I feel a little freaky.
Gross.
Not gonna lie. All right, let's move on to number 8. Ruben, what you got?
My number 8 is one of my 2 hires.
Everybody's got 2. All right. Nerd Girl, what's number 8?
My second hire.
Ooh, I can do the heavy lifting on number 8. Let's go. This card is dope. This card is not only dope, this card has already seen some movement. It's over $10 for a rare for a good reason. This card is sweet. This card is also the first battle on my list. There's a battle in every pack. Battles are incredible. Battles give you little different extra life totals, or kind of give your opponent, honestly, extra life totals that you make for yourself. You tempt yourself with your own different life total that you can attack now. Invasion of Ikoria is just an amazing, incredible card. Like, it's not only a casual all-star, I can definitely see it in constructed. I mean, you know, there's been effects like this in the past, and they've all been very, very powerful. And the other half of it is very, very good. Invasion of Ikoria is 2 green and X generic mana. It is a battle siege, which will be more important as we move forward, because as a siege enters, you choose an opponent to protect it. You and others can attack it. When it's defeated, you exile it and cast it transformed. And when Invasion of Ikoria enters the battlefield, you search your library and or graveyard, which surprised me, by the way, for a non-human creature card with mana value X or less, and you put it on the battlefield. If you search your library this way, you shuffle. And let's say you deal 6 damage to it. Its defense value is 6. You flip it over into Zilortha, Apex of Ikoria, a legendary dinosaur, an 8/8 reach, and for each non-human creature you control, you may have that creature assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. So it was Thorn Elemental, right? Thorn Elemental's your entire team, yeah. All your non-humans, and it's scary. It's a very scary card, and I like it. This battle's sweet.
Thorn Elemental rocks, also a classic from Nemesis that does this ability, and Zilortha is Godzilla, king of the monsters from the original Ikoria, that didn't have an in-pack version. If you recall, there was like only the Godzilla variant. Mm-hmm. This is that same character. So, you know, let's say we play this and we get a creature, and then the next turn, there is a common instant that deals 6 damage to a battle in this set that has Convoke. So you can flip this before combat and then Thorn Elemental your opponent, which is very, very scary.
Battles are really interesting. I don't know how, like I said, I haven't played the format yet for Limited, but I did see one in a Commander game. So it does specify that you or others can attack that battle, but then it gives you the creature once the battle is defeated. I'm wondering what the idea is behind allowing other people to help you unlock that battle. I mean, it's just like a politics thing, but it is interesting wording to me.
Oh yeah, I think it's great. And yet another sort of facet on this new card type that people are going to have to figure out and navigate. You know, Finale of Devastation is a fantastic Magic card that is, my God, $44 right now. And this is very similar. And so a similar effect, a very powerful card that goes in all kinds of decks. Well, it's great. So let's move on here to number 7. Ruben, what you got?
My number 7, I talked about on the show. I'm going to talk about it again. We did a top 10 cutest cards, but my cute baby boy needs more attention. Placid Rottentail is my number 7. Placid Rottentail is a 1/1 for a green Vigilance Fungus Rabbit. I love it. Has 2 generic and a green. Exile Placid Rottentail from your graveyard. Put 2+1/+1 counters on target creature. Activate only as a sorcery. Apparently this card has rules text. I don't really care about that. I only care about this adorable bun that's eating daisies and growing fungus out of its brain.
Wow.
Look at this goofy dude.
Look, over under, without counting changelings, are there more or less than 7 rabbits in Magic?
Ooh, interesting.
Rabbits specifically. I would say...
Rabbit.
I'm going to say over.
That's close. That's like the line, I think. That's like a pretty good spot on the line, Evan.
So
that's exactly why.
I'll take the under just because Ruben took the over.
Before you say what they are, let me try to name some. We've got Zodiac Rabbit, obviously. Yep. Portal 3 Kingdoms.
Right.
We've got the new the mono white commander guy.
Preston, yeah. The Vanisher.
Preston. Did they change Vizardrix to be a rabbit?
They did.
Did they change Kezardrix to be a rabbit?
They did.
Okay.
What about when fluffy bunnies attack?
Nope, but there is a rabbit battery that showed up in Kamigawa.
Rabbit
Oh, yeah,
Battery.
yeah, Rabbit
yep.
Battery.
Placid Rottentail.
Placid Rottentail does count, and there's Quain, Itinerant.
Yes.
Itinerant Meddler.
Itinerant Meddler.
This is from a Commander set from 2020, and the last one was added via errata to Exodus. The Jackalope herd is now a rabbit beast. There are a total of 8 cards that have the type of rabbit. So Ruben won.
Deciding if I like the jackalopes are rabbits.
Wanted to draw that line right where you couldn't guess. So Nerd Girl, what is your number 7?
All right. So my number 7, pretty straightforward card. It reminded me of an enchantment that all of us were it's too powerful. It's too powerful. We didn't like it in standard, and we're glad it's gone. But this gave me similar vibes. I think it'll be a little easier to kill, and I don't think it gives quite as much value. So I think it's like a good middle ground on this sort of idea. So we're going to talk about Tribute to the World Tree. Green, green, green. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card if its power is 3 or greater. Otherwise, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So this is sort of like a Great Henge mesh that doesn't gain you life, and it doesn't add the mana to your pool as well. But it's tough to cast. But it also does the thing. It puts some counters on a creature. It draws you cards. It's not doing both. So this feels very fair to me, and I'm excited to see things like this to help green sort of generate that card draw and unique stuff that green wants to be doing without it needing to be Great Henge.
Yeah. This card's very good. I had it in one of my limited decks in the streamer event. It's great with the Kami of Whispered Hopes that we talked about earlier. It can go into your hand from Omnath if you really want it to. The value associated here is really good. Because if you want, it grows your small things and replaces itself for your big stuff, all for the low cost of 3 mana. Even if it's all 3 green mana, I would not be shocked if this card saw play in standard. It's just a very good card.
It's you can't lose, right? They put 2 different conditions on here where you don't lose. You don't feel bad for either triggering. And it's funny to me, like, there are so many Mondo combos, so many infinite combos that begin with Sack Outlet, Kitchen Finks, and whatever the hell they came up with this time. And so, yeah, you can go infinite with a Kitchen Finks. Whee! So
and it doesn't say non-creature token.
This is true. So, yeah, that card is cool. But speaking of 3 mana symbols, I got your 3 mana symbols right here. Now, this card was one of my favorites from the preview stream, because I saw it happen, and I'm telling you right now, it's like $6 and moving up. This card is going to be a infinite dollars because the city is on fire. The city is on fire. This card is ridiculous. This card is insane. This card is actually insane because Fiery Emancipation was a magic card, is a magic card. It's not a cheap magic card, and it triples your damage, but you're paying 6 mana for it. It doesn't have a discount literally built into it. For God's sake, City of Fire is 3 red, 5 generic mana. That's 8 mana. You're never going that's never going to happen. This is blah, blah, blah. And then the magical word of Convoke shows up on this rare enchantment, which means your creatures can help cast this spell. Each creature you tap while casting the spell pays for 1 generic or 1 mana of that creature's color. If a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals triple that damage. Instead, Play with Fire deals 6, Lightning Strike deals 9, all your dorks deal 3. I'm telling you, make some dorks, make some dorks. City of Fire is a thing I did in Constructed, and it was awesome. And you can do it too. And even if it only hits casual tables, this thing is a winner. This card's fantastic and scary, but fantastic.
Yeah, this was my number 8.
Nice.
Because it costs 8 mana. This card's great. The Convoke deck, the red-blue Convoke deck in Limited's very good. I had a wonderful time playing a bunch of 3/4 flyers for 6 with Convoke, dealing 6 damage with Convoke. Mm-hmm. It's not hard. There's a bunch of little elementals that let you convoke all your things. Mm-hmm. I also had the Invasion of Segovia, which allowed me to untap all my guys, which was really nice. But in Constructed, elementals are probably not your best bet. Goblins, though, are your best bet. There are so many Krankos commands and Hordling outbursts that you can get this down turn 4 easy without really trying. And for the rest of the game, which hopefully won't be very long, you're going to get to deal a ton of damage.
Triple. It says triple.
Triple.
That's a lot.
It's so much. Yeah.
It's way more than necessary to kill a person.
You could have the dorkiest. You could literally just have 4/1/1s that help you play this, and untap with them, and that's a scary board. You got 12 damage just hanging out, like doing nothing. It's fantastic.
Yeah, there are 5 cards ever that have had the word triple printed on them. 2 of them are from unsets. And the only other ones deal triple the amount of red damage. We have Jessica Thrice Reborn, which is not terribly expensive, followed by Fiery Emancipation, like you said, and City on Fire. But dealing triple the damage is incredible.
Is fantastic. And let's move on here to number 6. This is my first hire. Ruben, what's your number 6?
My number 6 is a very good team up as well. I sort of split my list into cards that I thought would be good in Constructed at the top 5, and cards that I love at the 6 through 10. And how can you not love Yargle and Multani? For 3 generic black, green, you get a legendary creature, Frog Spirit Elemental, that is a vanilla 18/6. That is what you get. Not much else to say. I will say that during the streamer event, while I was not recording, my opponent played this. I played Invasion of Lorwyn, thinking that it was toughness, not power, so failed to kill Multani and Yargle. And then my opponent played Voldaren Thrillseeker, which threw it at my face for 20. So I was not recording, but that is a thing that occurred.
Wow.
In Limited.
Yargle's come to Bartle,
Ouch.
man. I don't know what to tell you. Like, he's here to crush it, and it's got 18 power, and I love it. So, and the flavor text is absolutely hilarious.
There is also like an uncommon in the set common. When it ETBs, it gains like flying and stuff. You can give +1/+1 and the next keyword, which is flying.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some cool interactions with Yargle. There always is.
Yeah,
He's
there's
just
some
a-
very good interactions with Yargle.
I mean, it's a story win. It's like a actual image of them together is a win. I mean, the flavor text is amazing. It's still powerful and fun and silly combos. Like, I love it. Nerd Girl, what's number 6?
My number 6 is a simple card, but I actually just like it. I'm a big fan of like ETB triggers and flicker decks and like teleportation, things like that. And I play a lot of Orzhov and Esper type things that want to be doing a lot of these sorts of tricksy stuff. So we're going to talk about Guardian of Griffer. Help me out here, Ruben.
Guardian of...
Grepper?
Oh, Girapur.
Hold on.
Girapur?
Girapur, yeah, that's on Kaladesh.
Guardian of Girapur.
Mm-hmm.
Or Girapur.
Girapur.
Yes.
I didn't know how to approach that one.
I'm Southern. I say Girapur. Hey, y'all.
Yeah, that's a
Girapur.
Kaladesh. That's a Kaladesh location.
Yes.
Cool. Guardian of Girapur is an angel. 3/3 for 3. Great stats, great creature type, given all of the angel support we've seen over the last few sets. It's got flying, and when it enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target creature or artifact you control. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So you get to do some cool stuff. It doesn't have flash like Restoration Angel or anything like that, but you are going to be getting just a ton of value in addition to just getting a very solid creature on its own. The fact that it can also hit artifacts lets you do some really cool things with like artifacts that maybe draw when they ETB or something along those lines. It can flicker cards out of aura removal enchantments, things like that. So very cool card, great rate. I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Card's
this
sweet.
card's extremely good. I mean, 3/3 flyer for 3 mana with no drawback is already worth looking at. Angel creature type means that it can theoretically see play in Historic, in the life gain Bishop of Wings deck.
Mhm.
You also get more triggers off of the guy that gains you life whenever an angel enters the battlefield.
That's Bishop of Wings,
not
yeah.
Bishop of Wings, and then there's a 2/4 flyer for 3 that's an angel.
Yes, that it's equal to the toughness of like a cleric or angels that you play or something like that.
Yeah. So this goes along great in that deck already. Not to mention the fact that there's so much stuff that you want to be blinking in this set. The fact that that you're limited to artifacts and creatures is okay because this resets your battles. This lets you like you've already won one battle. Great, blink it and do it again.
Okay, it doesn't do battles because it's another target creature or artifact.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
once you flip
once
the
you
battle,
flip it into a creature or an artifact or whatever it happens to be.
yeah, once
yes,
you flip it, then you get to redo the battle.
You can go back. That's
You
right.
can go back to that same battle, and it's a flyer, which means that it has an easier time of going back into that battle. So Guardian of Gurapur is amazing.
Card is sweet.
Is there a lot of battles? I didn't see a lot of battles. I thought the payoff was the creature. Why would you want to flicker most of them and redo it?
So a lot of the battles have come into play abilities. When
Yeah.
you play, so for example, Invasion of Lorwyn, like I mentioned earlier, when it enters the battlefield, destroy a creature with toughness X or less, where X is the number of lands you control. Then you flip it over and you get a giant idiot.
Right.
But if you target your giant idiot, you get to kill another creature.
Right.
Yeah.
It flips
Right?
back over the battle. So yeah, you get the battle
So
trigger.
most of it's some of the battles are worth keeping as creatures, and some of the battles are worth going back to the well a second time. It's just another option that you get.
There you go. All right, let's move on here to number 5. We are in the top 5, and we're swinging pretty hard here for the fences on this one. This is one of what some people are asking, like, is this the new like prime target for reanimation in standard? Have we already moved past Atraxa? Because have y'all read Atali Primal Conqueror? Card is bananas. Like, card's bananas. Like, actually insane. It's 2 red, 5 generic mana for a 7/7 rare legendary elder dinosaur with trample. And when it enters the battlefield, that doesn't mean cast. That just means whenever it enters the battlefield for whatever reason, each player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. You may cast any number of spells among the non-land cards exiled this way without paying their mana cost. And we ain't even done. For a 9 generic mana and a green Phyrexian mana, you transform into Atali Primal Sickness. Oh, the sickness is here, and we are down with it. It is an 11/11 trample indestructible, and when it deals combat damage to a player, they get that many poison counters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One of the clips that you'll see in our early access streamer event is me killing somebody with the Primal Sickness. This card's insane. There's no two ways about it. It's a 7-drop that's a 7/7 trampler that is giving you card advantage when it enters the battlefield, and it's a one-shot robot on the back. Card's very, very, very good.
Very good.
It's interesting to see big scary things turn Phyrexian, because Phyrexians are scary enough as it is, and then you see like undead dinosaur looking thing it's actually really awesome. I love the art on both sides of this card, and I like to see dinosaurs get a little bit more love. There's some fun dinosaurs that you see floating around in Commander, so it's always really cool when you get new ones because we don't see them that often.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I was not expecting Atraxa to get knocked off any sort of pedestal anytime soon, but it's a 7/7 trample that gives you 2 spells for free. Like, holy God.
This is magic these days.
That's a lot, man. So yeah, that card is unreal. Ruben, what's number 5?
Going from a very expensive, lots of mana investment card to a card that I think we'll see a lot of play that's a 1 mana instant. Historically, 1 mana is a sweet spot in Constructed. You want as many 1-drops, even if they're kind of mediocre, in your Constructed decks. Historically, 1 mana instants that are good in your sideboard are also quite good. The newest generation of, well, I'll call them hate cards, but sort of like color hosers. They're trying to find the sweet spot between fully hosing something out of existence and being usable, and also being usable in best of 1. And I think that they've done that in Surge of Salvation. Surge of Salvation is a 1 white mana instant. It's also one of the story spotlight cards. You and permanents you control gain hexproof until the end of the turn. Prevent all damage that black and or red sources would deal to creatures you control this turn. So this is a counterspell to discard effects. It's a counterspell to sort of flame break effects if you want to prevent your opponents from, dealing 3 damage to all of your creatures. Does a lot of really interesting things.
Flexible. It can do a lot. It just needs the right setup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sort of by default in your best of one, it's going to counter removal spells. It's going to counter bounce spells. It's going to counter some discard, all sorts of cool stuff like that. This is the most expensive uncommon right now from the set. It's over $2 a piece. This thing,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, this is, and as I understand it, this is just me outside looking in. A lot of Commander players like the idea of protecting their stuff and things that protect, Teferi's protection and things that like don't touch my stuff. This is a don't touch my stuff card, so it's pretty popular right there.
And it's pretty easy to just go in your traditional mono white aggro decks, go 1-drop, play 2 more 1-drops, then on the third turn, either play a 2-drop or 2 more 1-drops and protect them all with this card.
Right. Nerd Girl, what's number 5?
My number 5 is a kind of interesting card. I see these things happen. I see vampires do a lot of things, but this seems over the top for me. I think this might be one of the best 2-drops I've seen in a good while. We're going to talk about Dusk Legion Duelist.
Ooh.
For a colorless and a white, you get a Vampire Soldier 2/2, both very relevant creature types in Eternal formats and in Standard right now. It has Vigilance, so we've got a keyword tacked on. And whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put onto Dusk Legion Duelist, draw a card. This ability triggers only once a turn. But there's a lot of ways to put these sorts of 1/1 counters on it, and there's a lot of decks that use, we just recently had a big deck. What is the Double Striker 2/2? You put counters every time he's targeted. That deck has been a thing for a little while. Vizia, something starts with a V.
I can't remember right off the top.
I lost it.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Veto, something, whatever.
Something.
Anyway, there's a lot of things that do stuff like this and slip out the back and some really cool cards where I could see this getting a lot of value if you can protect this in some sort of Azorius Boggles deck. That's going to be tough, and it's a free card engine for doing the exact same thing that deck wants to be doing anyway.
Homestead Courage is a card,
yeah.
And Midnight Hunt. It just hangs out 1 white, make this guy bigger, draw a card, make this guy bigger, draw a card. That's just good, clean living right there. That's awesome. So let's move on here to our number 4. Ruben, what's number 4?
My number 4, I mean, I'm not telling any secrets when it looks like this card will be good. It's just a solid rate. It targets any creature or planeswalker at instant speed, gives you a little bit of value, and it's easy to cast. It's Pile On. I'm not breaking any news here that this card's good, but I think it needs to be here. Pile On is 3 generic and a black for a instant with Convoke, which means that theoretically you don't have to pay any mana. Destroy target creature or planeswalker, surveil 2. So, as early as turn 3, you're going to be doing good work with Pile On. You can be tapping out for your creatures. You can play those goblin tokens we were talking about earlier. Pile On's just a very good card. Instant speed, planeswalker removal, instant speed creature removal with additional upside.
This is my number 8. Yeah,
Nice.
I think it's always good to have access to these sorts of things, and the fact that it's instant speed is always a good time in my book.
Convoke is a very magical mechanic, but it's a very super cool mechanic because, what Wizards is trying to do is to push you to play more creatures and more creature combat, and this rewards you for doing so. It's oh, cool. You get these spells on top of your cool creatures that we're incentivizing you to play. So here you go. And these are very cool, powerful abilities. The fact that you have Surveil 2 tacked on was not really necessary. Surveil 1 would have been okay. I wouldn't have been unhappy with that, but Surveil 2, let's go. Helps out Reanimator decks while they're trying to get set up. I love this thing. Nerd Girl, what's number 4?
So real quick before we get there, someone in chat did remind us that the card I was thinking of is Illuminator Virtuoso.
Yes.
The deck that was built around that for the make counters, do crazy things, kill someone in one shot.
Yes, yeah. I remember that.
This fits in that deck. Thank you, HD, for reminding us of that card name.
Streets of New Cabana.
So yeah, that was my number 8. My number 4, we talked about one big scary dinosaur. So why not talk about another one? I really like the ancient Imperiosaur. It is a 6/6 for 5 green, but it also has Convoke. It has Trample and Ward 2, and when it enters the battlefield with 2+1/+1 counters on it for each creature that convoked it. It's freaking huge.
Yeah.
So you can get this thing out very, very quickly. And if you do, like with anything that makes saprolings or tokens or your little like mana dorks or whatever, then this thing is going to have Ward 2 and be very difficult to deal with, right? Like this is, I'm not crazy. This card seems insane.
It's one of the greatest Timmy creatures I've ever seen in my life. Like, ever. In the history of Magic, it's ridiculous.
Even at base, let's assume for the moment we just play a vanilla 1/1 on turn 1, a vanilla 2/2 on turn 2, and a vanilla 3/3 on turn 3. Let's just say that that's what we're playing in our deck for whatever reason. No abilities, nothing else. Turn 4, that makes Ancient Imperiosaur a 12/12 on turn 4 with Trample and Ward 2. That is Galta stats, which saw play in Standard. Yeah. That is, I mean, this thing is enormous and very easy to put into play very early.
Like, as someone who likes to feel things, and as someone who likes to win games of Magic, we're right. This is the dorkiest dork who ever dorked a dork. I mean, it's insane. It's the super Timius because you don't have to pay any mana to have this insanely huge creature. It is an insanely huge creature. They made it not just like Doom Bladed immediately. They have to give it a little bit extra. This thing is amazing. And look, I get that the Imperiosaur, first of all, it's had the same pose for the past like 15 years. But Imperiosaur was the thing that you could only play it by basic lands. And they always kind of hinted they would do a thing with basic lands. And now it's like, whatever, just bring back the Imperiosaur and we'll make it dope.
It does have the same pose as the card from Future Sight, doesn't it? That's very funny. Good
does.
Callback.
There you go. So one of the first surprises for me when I was playing in the preview event was this card. This is a hell of a Magic card, and it's got all the pedigree in the world. It didn't even need to be as good as it is. It didn't need to be. It could have been like just toned down a little bit. Could have done different stuff, whatever. But no. We just took away titles, and Elish Norn got better. I don't know how. This card is absolutely terrifying, and completely wrecked me many, many times over. For 2 white and 2 generic mana, it's a 3/5 mythic legendary Phyrexian Praetor with Vigilance. And whenever a source an opponent controls deals damage to you or a permanent you control, that source's controller loses 2 life unless they pay 1 generic mana. It doesn't come up that often, to be honest, in my experience when I played against it. No, it's the second ability, which is 1 white, 2 generic mana. Sacrifice 3 other creatures, you exile her, you return her to the battlefield transformed, and you do that only as a sorcery, and she flips over into the Argent Etchings, aka my opponent learns to scoop. Chapter 1, you incubate 2 5 times and then transform all incubator tokens you control. So that's 5 2/2s for free, along with your 3/5 Vigilance, by the way, which went nowhere. And then Chapter 2, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain double strike until end of turn. And then you also have to give, like a napkin to your opponent because the tears, they flow. And then 3, it doesn't matter what 3 does. You're never going to see it. They're going to concede way before this happens. But in case you just happen to, Chapter 3, you destroy all other permanents except for artifacts, lands, and Phyrexians. And then you exile it and put it back in the battle. What? Well, you don't have your 3/5 with your incubator tokens because it's flipped over, but whatever. You get my point. The point is this card is nuts. This card is insane. And I've never seen anything like it. I was playing against it, and once they have 3 little dorks from Skrelv's Hive or whatever other random thing made tokens, it just runs you over. It runs you over. It's amazing.
Yep. I mean, they needed to make the Praetors good and flashy, and they have certainly done that.
Lord almighty.
I think that this is the best Praetor of the new generation of Praetors. Chapter 1 sets up a win. You if you are able to activate Elish Norn, which by the way is perfectly reasonable stats wise, just by herself, 3/5 Vigilance. If you have those 3 dorks and 3 mana and you sacrifice her, the Chapter 2 of Argent Etchings will end the game. And if it doesn't, then Chapter 3 of Argent Etchings will end the game.
It was reset everything. You're like, oh,
just
cool.
Everything.
Let's put this back as a 3/5. Okay,
and if it flips back over into Elish Norn, you can sacrifice 3 of your previously transformed incubators. So,
but wait, there's more. Like,
Yeah. It just feeds itself.
It's
It's like, yeah, I mean, all of the
Oh.
Praetors are extremely good, just sort of game wins in a can.
Yeah.
This one, I think, is the best.
they are really pushing the design stuff in the last couple of sets. They're just getting more and more crazy.
Splashy and
Yeah.
wild and like, because again, it doesn't matter what that third chapter says. You're never getting there. The game is ending with that insane second ability.
Sure.
So
but
just
if
put whatever
if they
you
play
want
a
on
fog,
it. Yeah, just
if
put
they
whatever
play
you
a
want.
fog or they have a bunch of walls, then you just destroy everything else.
And we start over. That's fine. Let's move on here to number 3. Ruben, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is my last higher on somebody else's list.
All right, Nerd Girl, what is your number 3?
Okay, my number 3 is an interesting card. I'm excited about it. I like these colors. I like what it does. But like, honestly, the major reason I wanted to put it on my list is because I wanted to know why we are, I assume we are spraying demons, Phyrexians with a paint gun. So we're going to talk about Errant and Giada, a colorless white-blue 2/3 flying angel with flash. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast spells with flash or flying from the top of your library. So there are cards that give things flash and flying. There are cards that like let historic spells be cast with flash and stuff like that. So there's very cool synergies that we can have. But look at this art. Are we spraying? Because it's Capenna themed.
Right.
So is Errant spraying Phyrexians with ground up angels? Is that?
She's super soaking right now. Is that
Maybe.
right?
Yeah.
Like super soaking
And you
with
can even
Halo?
pop up the alternate version, and it looks even more like a paint gun.
Yep. Well, Errant is the street artist and is affiliated with the Maestros, which means that they probably do deal in Halo, and Giada is the angel. These are also a couple of like kids. I
Crazy
think
kids.
the lore is that both Errant and Giada are very young. So it's an interesting team up. The card itself is extremely powerful too. I mean, the price is right here for an extremely powerful like card advantage engine.
Yeah, it's a neat card. I got to play it in limited earlier, and that it didn't come together. But as a card, again, I was very excited to play as many flyers as I could put in my deck. We do get that weird, like she has a gun, but it's not a gun. It's not the G word.
Right.
It's a Halo sprayer.
Well,
yeah.
yes. I mean, that's what
That's
she
what it's
does,
doing.
though.
I'm just reading the lore, man. I don't know.
Right. It's like when you replace, like if you watched
not a
any
gun.
episodes of How I Met Your Mother, anytime they refer to marijuana, they replace it with a sandwich in the story. That's what
Nice.
we're doing here. We're replacing the gun with a spray gun. But in the lore, Errant is a street artist. So does that mean that Errant is a hitman?
So my number 3.
All right.
Look, I just gushed. I just gushed super hard about Elish Norn. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, it's a hell of a magic card. It's fantastic. It's great. It might end up being better than this one. I don't know. And this is some preview stream stuff, and that's always kind of skewed because people are just being silly and whatever, casual. Okay, but the card and the Praetor that impressed me the most, it's not a Rabrask. But the one that I was like, oh my god, and the one I was like,
comments. Get in the comments, people.
oh
Sorry.
my Jesus, which one is it going to be? Well, let me tell you. It's Vorinclex. Vorinclex is so sick. This card is so... Y'all, I can't...
Really?
Here's the interaction. Here's the interaction when I was just like, oh my Jesus. Here's the interaction. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the first half. First half is fine. He's 2 green, 3 generic mana for a 6/6 trample reach. Those are still fantastic words. He's a mythic legendary Phyrexian Praetor. And when he enters the battlefield, you search your library for up to 2 forest cards. That's not basic. 2 forest cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle.
Okay.
So he draws you 2 cards. For 2 green and 6 generic mana colon, you exile him, then return him to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control as a sorcerer.
Sure.
All right, and here's the key. His first chapter can find himself. When you find a Vorinclex off a flipped Vorinclex, oh my God, the hug from Jesus that is awaiting you. Because the first chapter, when you pay 8 mana, is mill 10 cards. Put up to 2 creature cards from among the milled cards onto the battlefield. And again, Vorinclex into Vorinclex is something I did multiple times, and yes, it was awesome. And then Chapter 2, distribute 7+1/+1 counters among any number of target creatures you control. Again, the game's likely over, but if it just so happened to not be, Chapter 3 is an until end of turn. Creatures you control gain 1 generic mana : this creature fights target creature you don't control. You exile it, then you return it to the battlefield. And Vorinclex into Vorinclex, y'all. Scary.
I don't see it.
I saw it.
I don't see it. I think it's a very good creature. Like 5 mana, 6/6 trample reach. Already we're good. Get 2 forests, very good. 8 mana to flip is a lot of mana. Mill 10 cards, get some more creatures. Sure. Mill 10 cards, get some creatures. Distribute 7+1/+1 counters. Fight some stuff. None of this says end the game to me. All of this says get wrathed and get piled on to me.
It's one of those things where, again,
as opposed to Elish Norn, which actually ends the game.
Elish Norn does end the game.
It turns all the things indestructible. It survives, or it deals with a wrath much better, in my opinion.
I mean, things are allowed to be more powerful than other things, certainly, but like that doesn't mean that this is not going to end games.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe it's a little more easily answerable, sure. But yeah, if you get to do the thing is like, it's a great rate on its face. You don't have to pay the 8 mana for this card to be brutal.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that 5 mana, 6/6 trample reach, draw 2 cards, already good enough.
Still a fine Magic card. And again, this might be, just my perspective and the way I got and ran into stuff during the preview stream. But when the Vorinclex flipped over a Vorinclex, even when I just put 7 counters on it and made it a 13/13 trample, they didn't have the pile on. Well, they don't got the Doomblade. They'll just die. And that's a thing that can happen. Either way, it's going here to number 2, my final hire, but that's okay because it's awesome.
Wow.
Ruben, what's your number 2?
My number 2, I have this high, and I don't know that it's correct. This is just my called shot. When I see the rate on this card and what it does, it signals to me that it's designed to be played in constructed formats. When I see a creature that costs a generic and a green and is a 2/3, that signals to me this is constructed playable. When I look at Deep Root Wayfinder, I see a card that very well could be a staple of a standard deck. I don't know whether Magic has evolved past 2/3s for 2 mana, or what's going on with this card. But when I saw this card, I said that's a 4 of in a standard deck. Deep Root Wayfinder is a generic and a green for a 2/3 Merfolk Scout. Whenever Deep Root Wayfinder deals combat damage to a player or battle, surveil 1. Then you may return a land from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. To me, this is if you'd shown me this card at most points in Magic's history, I would have said this is the best rare in the set.
That does seem very good. I like the getting to dig for better answers and or getting the card advantage of just getting the lands off the top of your deck. Usually when you can draw a land off the top of your deck, you're happy. This is letting you ramp off those off the top of your deck, which seems pretty nutty.
It's interesting, and I agree. There's a weird line, where we live in terms of like what 2 mana can do, what 2 mana should do, what stats 2 mana should have. Should this be a 3/2 versus a 2/3? Like, is a 3 toughness really important so it doesn't get bolted immediately? Is it enough of a kind of an advantage if you don't return things from your graveyard to the battlefield, right? Is Surveil 1 enough if you're not doing what you kind of want to do with it? So it's interesting. I don't know. This is definitely a called shot, and this is also, again, one of those cards that like have little incremental advantages, and you're like, oh, that's why that card's good, because over time, 2 Deeper Wayfinders is kind of insane. It just ramps you up into whatever.
Yeah.
Ramps up into Vorinclex.
It's an extremely good green Merfolk, and we've tried to make blue-green Merfolk work in the past. This is some good card selection. It's some good graveyard filler. I'm hopeful that this card is as good as I think it reads.
Nice. I got a cool blue-green historic Merfolk deck. It's really fun.
You should give this one a shot.
There you go. Nerd Girl, what's your number 2?
All right. So we had to talk about the sort of feature card in this set, right? Fairy Mastermind. Colorless and a blue for a Fairy Rogue. It's a 2/1 flash and flying. Whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, you draw a card. And then for 4, you can make each player draw a card. So you can sort of force the issue here. Make them draw a second card on their turn. You get to draw 2 cards. And it's important to note that this is the World Championship card. And if you guys remember Paulo, that card was insane in Standard. They actually tend to go out of their way to make the cards that represent our world champions be very, very good. So I expect this card to see a ton of play. It doesn't read Praetor Bomb, but it reads a ton of value, a 4 of staple and Standard, certainly.
Yeah. This was my number 3. Goes great in that Errant Giada deck that we were talking about. This goes in your Collected Company kind of fairy tempo kind of decks. Does not need help. This card is good by itself. I would be shocked if there wasn't a deck that had Fairy Mastermind as its centerpiece.
Now, this was my number 6. I got to play with this card a little bit earlier in Sealed, where it was fantastic when it got to do its thing. Because what happens is, on their turn, you pay 4 mana, they draw 1, you draw 2. Mm-hmm. And that's incredible. And another thing that, at least I didn't hear it when they talked about Paulo's card. Maybe they said something about it. I don't know. But they seem to show a little bit of how the sausage was made when it comes to Fairy Mastermind, and how they deal with putting people's likenesses on a card. Like, A, they didn't want it to be a legend, but B, they wanted it to be good. So Elite Spellbinder was already known in R&D to be a good card. It was already a fantastic Magic card. They knew that. They knew it was going to be playable. They put the stats the right way, blah, blah, blah. So they already went through that process. They didn't have to get ideas from a winner and try to incorporate them into a certain hole in a set, in a thing that has to go there and blah, blah, blah. They go, no, this card's great. You're going to be on it. This card's great. And, Yuta gets to be on it, right? So, or Yuya rather. So I thought that was really interesting in how they kind of, said, hey, this is how we do it now, which is we just pick a good card for them to be on.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that I'm sure that Yuta had some input. I don't want to be on a, right. I don't care that a giant is the best card in the set. I don't want to be a giant, for example.
Sure.
I think that, this card, it's also a Fairy Rogue. It's got flash, it's got flying, it draws cards. What is not to like here?
It does a lot. It does a whole lot. And so, again, I love that sort of, looking behind the curtain, how they do this. And it made so much more sense where they didn't have to make Elite Spellbinder. They didn't have to make Fairy Mastermind. They had those cards and they gave them to the world champions because they knew they were going to be cool and playable and good. And I'm all for it. All right.
I just also want to real quick note the art. The Paulo card, if you know it's Paulo, you're like, yeah, that looks like Paulo. Mm. But the character itself was so small that if you just look at the card, you're not like, oh, that's Paulo. Mm-hmm. In this one, I feel like they really, really emphasized the player and wanted those sort of particular traits to really stand out.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of cool.
Absolutely.
It looks way more, you can really tell who it is. It's a very clear likeness of Yuta.
First fairy I've ever seen with glasses.
Yeah.
First time for everything. Yeah. Let's move on here to our number 1. Nerd Girl, what is your number 1?
All right. So my number 1 is, we talked about this a little bit earlier. I'm a big fan of dinosaurs. So we're going to talk about more dinosaurs. And this one has a very similar name to a dinosaur that I love. But we're going to talk about the Rampaging Raptor. Ooh. 2 colorless and a red for a 4/4 dinosaur. Trample and haste. For 3 mana, it gets +2 and 0 until end of turn. You can do that as many times as you want. And whenever it deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to target planeswalker that player controls or a battle that player protects. It's important to note that this has haste. It has trample, so you can pump it to make that happen. And you're going to be able to just kill their planeswalkers, activate your battles without them even knowing that it's coming. Because, if this is not on the field, they might just not have the blocker and not expect it coming. And this is the second time we've seen the deal damage to planeswalker based on face damage questing beast. And that was a insanely powerful mechanic.
Yeah. This is the red questing beast. It's insane.
It's
very good card. If there's going to be a 2 colorless red 4/4 that sees play in Standard, it's probably going to be this one. This card's extremely good, particularly good if you're playing with battles, because you can continue to pressure your opponent while garnering the rest of your advantage. But if planeswalkers are a thing in standard or are particularly a problem, particularly like high toughness planeswalkers often are an issue for red decks. Rampaging Raptor is going to do a lot of work at keeping them down.
Yeah, for those who weren't around in Eldraine and haven't seen what that kind of weird redirection thing is doing, it's pretty brutal because it's hurting you and it's hurting the thing that's supposed to distract them. Like the Planeswalker's supposed to be like, go over here, go hit that battle, go attack the Planeswalker, leave me alone, red deck, you're hurting me. But this goes around that entirely. And was Cool Stuff Inc.'s preview for this season, which was nice. They gave us a sweet one. Nice. But this card is absolutely fantastic. Ruben, what's number one? And by elimination, my number two.
Yeah, it felt like this had to be the number one. It felt like the easiest shoe-in for this card is going to see standard play, and is part of the reason why I put my Deeproot Walker at number two, because it survives Invasion of Tarkir at its base level. Mm-hmm. Although we'll see how many dragons see play. If Ojutai and Friend see play, then this is going to be a better card. Invasion of Tarkir is a generic and a red for a battle siege with 5, what are they called?
Defense counters.
Defense counters on
it's
them.
Mythic, by the way.
It is a mythic with 5 defense counters on it. And it says, when Invasion of Tarkir enters the battlefield, reveal any number of dragon cards from your hand. When you do, Invasion of Tarkir deals X damage +2 to any other target where X is the number of cards revealed in this way. X can be 0. So base level, 2 damage. If you reveal 1, then you get 3. If you reveal 2, you get 4. On the backside, we've got Defiant Thundermaw, 4/4 flying trample dragon that says whenever a dragon you control attacks, it deals 2 damage to any target. It's removal on the front. You're in a red deck, so you've probably got ways to get the backside. I don't think Defiant Thundermaw is, spectacular in any way, especially compared to the front. But, you've got a really good front side and a potentially good backside, and something that's really good in multiples as well.
Commander Dragon players are very excited for even just that backside. It's, you just attack and you just get to do like 10 damage and just machine gun down all blockers and or just kill somebody else while the dragons are attacking, the person with the higher life total. It's awesome. Too awesome, probably, but dragons usually are.
We're all about that backside on Magic Bikes. And listen, this card is nutty. Like, this card is insane. Like, this is one of those, it used to be that Wizards was a subsidiary of Hasbro and blah, blah. No, this is like how Hasbro can make money, is making sick removal spells that are some of the best in the set. Mythic, okay, fine. The card's nuts. And this is, and for me, it was the minute I read it and I said, wait a minute, can I Invasion of Tarkir and Invasion of Tarkir? Yes, you can. And that is sick. And I got to play with it in the preview stream with a bunch of dragons. Oh, yes, it is real. Oh, yes, it is sick. And when you flip that thing over, you're going to end the game pretty quickly. Getting a free shock with every dragon attack is a lot. This card was made to be awesome, and it is awesome. All right, so I'm going to move on here to my number one. This is a card that I was excited about from the very instant that I read it. The very moment I saw it, I was like, this card is insane. I think this card is my called shot for, if not the best card in the set, damn near one of the best cards in the set. I got to play with this card in the preview stream, and I'm telling y'all, it's got the right numbers, and it is so sick. Jesus, the backside of this card is insane. The front side is Invasion of Gobakhan. Invasion of Gobakhan is a white and a generic mana for a battle siege. It is rare. And when Invasion of Gobakhan enters the battlefield, you look at target opponent's hand. You may exile a non-land card from it. For as long as that card remains exiled, its owner may play it, and it costs 2 generic more to cast. We were literally just talking about Paulo's card. That was what was stapled on it. That's great. And it has 3 defense counters. And I'm telling you, that is so beautiful. Because what happens is you play your 1 mana 2/1. You do this on turn 2. You get it down to 1 counter. And you try to get that last counter. That last counter is what you strive for. Because mother of God, when you flip this thing over into Light Shield Array, it is an enchantment that says at the beginning of your end step, you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature that attacked this turn. You sacrifice Light Shield Array. Creatures you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Remember when I talked about people, and especially commanders, like to protect their stuff and make sure their stuff is okay. I got to play with this, y'all. When you flip it, you cast it, which means Monastery Mentor makes another 1/1 when you flip it. It's insane. Card is bananas. Oh my God, I had 2 of them out at one point. Absolutely unstoppable. I'm absolutely unstoppable. There's nothing you can do. My team is huge. They're attacking every turn. There's nothing you could do. Oh my God. It was nuts. This card is bananas, and damn, it's good. It's so good.
I wish I had as much energy as you do just there in the entire day. Like, just like spread out. Like, I don't think I have it like at all. You were so excited. I feel like, you know, when you're like 8 and it's your birthday?
Oh, yeah.
That's what Evan is like when he finds a Magic card that he really likes.
I love it.
Exactly.
Love it.
I mean,
it's so good.
This card, I was poo-pooing the excitement a little bit of this card. I'm going to pull that back. I think that this card is exactly as good. Maybe not as good as Evan's excitement says, but certainly as good as
thinking.
Evan says.
Yes, I do think that is very good.
I love very fiercely, okay? I love fiercely.
No, and we love that for you.
That is your thing. You feel a lot.
Yeah.
When Monastery Mentor gave me an extra token, I swear to God, I could have just died, just fallen over, been done. That's it. Well,
the fact that the numbers, like this card does not say you don't get Wrathed ever, but it kind of says that. And it says it in 2 different ways.
It does.
So, and you don't get Pyroclasmed ever in 3 different ways. So, this card is doing a lot for 2 mana.
It's
and
amazing.
In a white deck, you're going to want to probably play this on turn 3, right? In the example I gave earlier with Surge of Salvation, you just go 1-drop, turn 2, 2 more 1-drops, turn 3 this, leave up mana for Surge of Salvation, probably flip this immediately because it only has 3 defense counters on it, and then you're Gucci. Like, what is your opponent going to be able to do at that point to affect your board at all?
Because all 3 creatures just got bigger. And you have the ultimate out of just sacking this. Oh my God. Like, I was excited before I got to play it. Then I got to play it. Card's unreal. The card is unbelievable. I love it. It's great. Magic's great. You guys are great. And I had a great time with this top 10. And that was our top 10.
Awesome. I love that outro.
Thank you. That was our top 10 March of the Machine cards. You'll see them on screen right now for your review. Take a look at my list, Nerd Girl's list, Ruben's top 10, and we want to hear from you about what card we did not talk about. And we'll select our favorite to win $50 worth of anything at CoolStuffInc.com. But before we go, I want to thank my co-host. Thank you, Nerd Girl.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Ruben.
That's right. Time to get some more data on the limited environment. And we'll see you then.
Yeah, that isn't me just getting destroyed. Thanks. You learn from your losses.
It's probably going to just be getting destroyed.
It's
going to be a list of cards that my opponent beat me with.
Yeah, I'll take that. And with that, we go to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, ManaTraders.com, my co-host, MTG Nerd Girl, and Ruben Bresser. You guys for watching and listening. Hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online at twitch.tv at Magic Mics, on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.